You do not lack money. You lack the consciousness of wealth. And until you grasp this, truly grasp it, you will spend your entire life chasing shadows. Money is not the goal. Wealth is not something external to be obtained. It is a state of being you must enter. Every dollar you have ever received came not because you worked hard, not because you were lucky, but because somewhere, somehow, you assumed the feeling of already having it. The world is a mirror. It reflects back to you, with mathematical precision, the state of consciousness you occupy. Change the state. The reflection must change. This is not philosophy. This is the mechanics of creation itself. Tonight I want to share with you something that will completely transform your relationship with money, with abundance, with the very substance of your life. But I must warn you, what I am about to reveal will challenge everything you have been taught. It will overturn the foundations of your beliefs about how money works, how it comes, how it stays, and why it has eluded you for so long. I have watched thousands of people transform their financial circumstances using this principle. I have seen the unemployed become employed. I have seen those drowning in debt become free. I have seen those living paycheck to paycheck suddenly experience an abundance they never thought possible. And I have seen it happen not through hard work alone, not through luck, not through manipulation or scheming, but through a simple shift in consciousness, through the understanding and application of one law, the law of assumption. You see, most people approach money with a consciousness of need. They wake up thinking about what they do not have. They go to sleep worrying about bills they cannot pay. Their entire mental and emotional world revolves around the absence of money. And then they wonder why money stays absent. They are literally investing every ounce of their consciousness in the state of not having. And the universe, which is simply a mirror, reflects that state back to them with perfect precision. You have been lied to about money your entire life. You were told that money comes through hard work, good luck, the right connections, or divine favor bestowed upon the chosen few. You were told to ask and you shall receive, then taught to beg a distant God for scraps. You were told to manifest abundance by repeating hollow affirmations, while your very repetition confessed the lack you sought to overcome. All of it, every single word, was a distortion of the one law that governs all creation. Assumption creates reality. Here is the core pain I want to address tonight. You are caught in an exhausting cycle of seeking what you believe you do not have, thereby perpetually recreating the very state of not having. You chase money, which means you assume you are separate from it. And that assumption, that invisible unconscious belief, is the iron law keeping poverty in place. What I will deliver to you tonight is not tips, not techniques, but a complete metaphysical re-education. Not about what to do, but about what to be. You will learn to think from wealth instead of wealth. You will discover that the feeling of abundance, genuinely felt and persistently maintained, hardens into the fact of abundance as surely as an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. This stands apart from common advice because I do not tell you what to do. I tell you what to be. The world of manifestation is not about action, it is about occupancy. Occupy the state of wealth long enough, and the world must rearrange itself to reflect that state back to you. This is not hope. This is not faith in the religious sense. This is the impersonal, mechanical operation of consciousness itself. The myth I will dismantle tonight is that you must earn money through external action. The truth I will reveal is that money is the natural fruit of the consciousness of wealth. Change the root, which is consciousness, and the fruit changes automatically. Now let me begin with a story that will make all of this real for you. This is not theory, this is not speculation. This is the testimony of a woman who proved this law in her own life when she had nothing left to lose. There was a woman, 55 years old, out of a job, with no family to fall back upon for support. She needed just about everything. To find a decent job, she needed a car to look for it, and though she had a car, it was so worn out it was ready to fall apart. She was behind in her rent. She had no proper clothes to seek a job, and in those days it was no fun for a woman of 55 to apply for a job of any kind. Her bank account was almost depleted, and there was no friend to whom she could turn. But she had been attending my lectures for almost a year, and her desperation forced her to put her imagination to the test. Indeed, she had nothing to lose. It was natural for her, I suppose, to begin by imagining herself having everything she needed. But she needed so many things and in such short order that she found herself exhausted when she finally got through the list. And by that time she was so nervous she could not sleep. One lecture night she heard me tell of an artist who captured the feeling, or the word as I called it, of "isn't it wonderful" in his personal experience. She began to apply this idea to her case. Instead of thinking of and imagining every article she needed, she tried to capture the feeling that something wonderful was happening to her, not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. She would say over and over to herself as she fell asleep, "Isn't it wonderful? Something marvelous is happening to me now." And as she fell asleep, she would feel the way she would expect to feel under such circumstances. She repeated that imaginary action and feeling for 2 months, night after night. And one day in early October, she met a casual friend she had not seen for months, who informed her he was about to leave on a trip to New York. She had lived in New York many years ago, and they talked of the city a few moments and then parted. She completely forgot the incident. 1 month later, to the day, this man called at her apartment and simply handed her a certified check in her name for $2,500. After she got over the initial shock of seeing her name on a check for so much money, the story that unfolded seemed to her like a dream. It concerned a friend she had not seen nor heard from in more than 25 years. This friend of her past, she now learned, had become extremely wealthy in those 25 years. The mutual acquaintance who had brought the check to her had met him quite by accident during the trip to New York last month. During their conversation they spoke of her, and for reasons she was not to know, for to this day she has not heard from him personally and has never attempted to contact him, this old friend decided to share a portion of his great wealth with her. For the next 2 years, from the office of his attorney, she received monthly checks so generous in amount they not only covered every necessary requirement of daily living, but left much over for all the lovely things of life. A car, clothes, a spacious apartment, and best of all, no need to earn her daily bread. Then, this past month, she received a letter and some legal papers to be signed, which provide the continuation of this monthly income for the rest of her natural life. Now you might say, well, that would have happened anyway. But I ask you, would it? This woman had not seen this friend in 25 years. There was no reason for him to suddenly think of her. There was no logical connection between her imaginative act and the appearance of that check. And yet, there it was. A certified check for $2,500, followed by monthly income for 2 years, followed by legal provision for the rest of her life. Some may call it coincidence. I call it the law of assumption in perfect operation. What did she do? She stopped thinking of her desire. She stopped exhausting herself with lists of needs. She stopped trying to figure out how it would come. Instead, she assumed the feeling of the wish fulfilled. She entered into the state of something wonderful happening right now, not tomorrow, now. And she persisted in that state, night after night, for 2 months. And then, without her doing anything, without her striving or seeking or manipulating, the outer world rearranged itself to match her inner assumption. This is the secret that the world does not know. You do not create by doing, you create by being. You do not attract money by working harder or thinking positive thoughts. You attract money by assuming the consciousness of wealth. And what is that consciousness? It is the feeling that you already are what you desire to be. It is thinking from the end, not of the end. Now let me tell you about another person who discovered this truth. There was a man, a salesman, who had been struggling for years. Every month was a battle. He would make just enough to survive, but never enough to thrive. He would lie awake at night calculating numbers, trying to figure out how to make ends meet. His consciousness was completely consumed by the mathematics of lack. How much do I owe? How much do I need? How much am I short? One evening, after attending one of my lectures, he decided to try something radical. Instead of calculating his debts before sleep, he began to feel what it would be like to have financial freedom. Not to imagine the specific amount, not to visualize checks or bank statements, but simply to capture the feeling of relief, of ease, of having more than enough. He would say to himself, I am free. I am abundant. Money flows to me easily and continuously. At first, it felt false. His rational mind protested. But you are not free, it said. You have debts, you have obligations, you are struggling. But he persisted. Every night for 3 months, he fell asleep in the feeling of financial freedom. During the day, when worry would creep in, he would pause and return to that feeling. I am free. I am abundant. Then something remarkable began to happen. Opportunities he had been pursuing for years suddenly materialized. Clients he had forgotten about called him out of the blue. A business deal that had fallen through was resurrected. Within 6 months, his income had tripled. Within a year, he was completely debt-free with money in savings for the first time in his adult life. He wrote to me saying, I did not work any harder. I did not suddenly become better at sales. The only thing that changed was my consciousness. I stopped assuming I was struggling and started assuming I was free. And the moment I made that shift internally, the external world had no choice but to reflect it back to me. This is not an isolated case. I could tell you hundreds of such stories. There was a young woman, a single mother, who had been living in her parents' basement because she could not afford rent. She had been applying for better-paying jobs for 2 years with no success. She was qualified, educated, hardworking, but nothing was opening up for her. Every interview ended in rejection. Every opportunity led nowhere. Then she heard this teaching. She realized she had been going to every interview in the consciousness of desperation, of need, of please pick me because I am struggling. Even though she tried to appear confident on the outside, her inner state was one of lack. So she changed her approach. Before her next interview, she did not prepare answers to questions. She prepared her consciousness. She sat quietly and assumed she already had the job. She felt the relief of it, the joy of it, the security of it. She imagined herself calling her parents and telling them the good news. She felt their happiness for her. She felt herself signing the paperwork, receiving the first paycheck, moving into her own apartment with her child. She went to the interview from that state. She was no longer asking them to save her. She was simply meeting with future colleagues, already knowing in her consciousness that she belonged there. She got the job. Not only that, they offered her more money than the position was advertised for. Within 3 months, she had moved into her own place. Within 6 months, she had been promoted. She wrote to me saying, I finally understand. The job did not change my state. My state created the job. I was trying to get the job so I could feel successful, but I needed to feel successful first. Then the job appeared to match that feeling. Do you see the pattern here? In every case, the change happened in consciousness first. The external change followed, not the other way around. This is the law. Consciousness is cause. Circumstances are effect. Change the cause and the effect must change. Let me tell you another story that will illuminate this principle even further. This one concerns a soldier, recently drafted into the army during the war, stationed in a large camp in Louisiana. He was intensely eager to get out of the army, but only in an entirely honorable way. The only way he could do this was to apply for a discharge. The application then required the approval of his commanding officer to become effective. Based on Army regulations, the decision of the commanding officer was final and could not be appealed. The soldier, following all the necessary procedure, applied for a discharge. Within 4 hours, this application was returned, marked disapproved. Convinced he could not appeal the decision to any higher authority, military or civilian, he turned within to his own consciousness, determined to rely on the law of assumption. The soldier realized that his consciousness was the only reality, that his particular state of consciousness determined the events he would encounter. That night, in the interval between getting into bed and falling asleep, he concentrated on consciously using the law of assumption. In his imagination, he saw himself receiving an honorable discharge. He felt the joy and relief of being free. He imagined himself at home in civilian clothes, living his normal life. He did not imagine the process of getting discharged. He did not imagine convincing the commanding officer or filling out new paperwork. He simply assumed he was already discharged and imagined from that state, from the end result. He did this night after night, always falling asleep in the feeling of being honorably discharged. And then, something remarkable happened. Within a matter of days, through a series of events that seemed completely unrelated to his desire, he was honorably discharged from the army. The commanding officer who had denied his request, the regulations that said there could be no appeal, all of it became irrelevant. The outer circumstances rearranged themselves to match his inner assumption. Now you might say, how is that possible? The regulations clearly stated no appeal. The commanding officer had final say, and yet he was discharged. How? Because the outer world is not the cause, it is the effect. The cause is consciousness. The soldier's assumption was the primary cause. Everything else, the commanding officer, the regulations, the circumstances, were secondary causes. And secondary causes must always conform to the primary cause, which is your assumption. Let me explain this more deeply because it is crucial to your understanding. In this world, we have been conditioned to believe in a hierarchy of power. We believe that governments have power over us, that employers have power over us, that banks have power over us, that economic conditions have power over us. But I tell you, this is an illusion. All power resides in consciousness. There is no power in any external circumstance unless you give it power through your assumption. The commanding officer only had power because the soldier assumed he had power. The regulations only had authority because the soldier assumed they had authority. But the moment the soldier shifted his assumption, the moment he occupied the state of already being free, those external powers became powerless. They had to conform to his new state. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth." The I Am, your consciousness, has all power. Nothing external has power unless you consent to it through assumption. I knew a woman who owed tens of thousands of dollars in back taxes. The government had sent her letters saying they would seize her assets if she did not pay. She had no way to pay. She was terrified. Every day the mail would come and she would dread opening it. The weight of this debt was crushing her. She could barely sleep. She could barely function. The fear had completely taken over her life. Then someone shared this teaching with her. At first, she thought it was nonsense. "You cannot just imagine away tax debt," she said. "The government does not care about your imagination." But she was desperate enough to try. She began Very simply, to assume that the debt was resolved. She did not imagine how it would be resolved. She did not try to figure out where the money would come from. She simply felt, in her consciousness, that it was finished, that it was handled, that she was free of this burden. Every time fear would arise, every time she would start to worry, she would stop herself and return to the feeling, "It is finished. I am free. This situation is resolved." She maintained this state for several weeks, though I must tell you, there were many moments when she wavered, when the fear would overwhelm her again. But each time, she would return to the assumption, "It is finished." Then one day she received a letter from the tax agency. She opened it with trembling hands, expecting another threat. Instead, it was a notice that due to an error in calculation, she actually owed only a fraction of what they had claimed. And even that reduced amount was being forgiven under a hardship program she had not even known existed. The entire debt gone, resolved, finished. Exactly as she had assumed. When she told me this story, she wept. She said, "I understand now. I was giving all my power to the government, to the debt, to the circumstances. But the moment I took my power back, the moment I assumed I was free in my own consciousness, the external circumstances had no choice but to rearrange themselves to match my assumption. The debt was never the problem. My assumption of the debt was the problem." This is what I want you to understand tonight. There is no circumstance in your life, no matter how insurmountable it appears, that is more powerful than your assumption. The circumstance is the shadow. Your assumption is the substance casting the shadow. Change the substance and the shadow must change. This is not positive thinking. This is not denial of reality. This is understanding the true nature of reality. Reality is not what you see. Reality is what you assume, and what you assume hardens into what you see. This is what I want you to understand tonight. There is no power outside of you that can override your assumption. There is no circumstance, no person, no rule, no law that is more powerful than your own consciousness. When you assume something to be true and persist in that assumption, the entire world must rearrange itself to make it so. This is not magic. This is not wishful thinking. This is the mechanical operation of the law of consciousness. But here is where most people fail. They assume their desire for a moment, perhaps in meditation or prayer, and then they spend the rest of their day assuming the opposite. They imagine wealth for 5 minutes, then spend 23 hours and 55 minutes thinking about their bills, their debts, their lack, and they wonder why nothing changes. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot assume wealth for a moment and poverty for the rest of the day and expect wealth to appear. The assumption you maintain most consistently is the one that hardens into fact. Let me tell you a third story, one that demonstrates the power of two people assuming together in consciousness. A daughter in San Francisco was in great financial trouble and needed $3,000 immediately. Her mother, visiting from Los Angeles, did not have much cash she could put her hands on quickly. And knowing her daughter, she knew she would not have accepted it anyway. Instead, the mother asked her daughter to help her in her way, meaning using imagination. The mother told her daughter, "I want you to go to bed tonight and feel that you have already received the $3,000. Feel the relief, feel the gratitude, feel the joy of having more than enough, and I will do the same." Every night, they both entered into the assumption. The daughter felt herself free of financial burden, grateful, abundant. The mother felt herself as the joyful giver, able to provide abundantly for her child. They did not imagine where the money would come from. They did not try to orchestrate the how. They simply assumed the end, the wish fulfilled, and felt it to be true. Within a short time, the $3,000 appeared. Not from the mother directly, not from any source they could have predicted, but through an unexpected channel that neither of them could have consciously arranged. Why? Because when two or more agree in consciousness, when two people assume the same end together, the power multiplies. This is the meaning of the scripture. If two of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them. To agree in consciousness is to assume together, to occupy the same state, to feel the wish fulfilled as a shared reality. Now, before I go deeper into the mechanics of this law, I want to give you one more illustration. This one is not a story of a person, but a revelation of Scripture. You see, the Bible is not a history book. It is not a collection of stories about people who lived long ago. It is a psychological drama. Every character, every event, every verse is a description of states of consciousness and the laws by which consciousness operates. Take the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Do you know what this means? Not what you were taught in Sunday school, but what it actually reveals about the nature of reality. The Lord is not a being external to you sitting on a throne in heaven. The Lord is your awareness, your I am, your consciousness. The Lord is my shepherd means your awareness is the shepherd of your life. That which you are aware of being follows you as sheep follow their master. I shall not want. When you know yourself to be abundance, when your awareness is fused with the state of wealth, you do not want, you do not lack, you do not need. Because your awareness, your shepherd, your Lord, has led you into the state where all provision exists. He makes me lie down in green pastures. The green pastures are not literal fields. They are the consciousness of abundance. And you lie down, meaning you rest. You do not strive. You do not struggle. You rest in the knowing that you already are what you desire to be. He leads me beside still waters. The still waters are the quiet confidence of inner knowing, not the turbulent waves of desperate seeking, but the deep calm of certainty. He restores my soul. Your soul is the sum total of all you believe, think, feel, and accept as true. When you remember who you truly are, when you return to the awareness that I am is God, your soul is restored. You are no longer fragmented by conflicting assumptions. You are unified in the consciousness of your true nature. The entire psalm is an instruction manual. It tells you that when you shepherd your own awareness, when you consciously direct your I am into the state of abundance, you will not want. You will lie down in green pastures of plenty. You will be led beside still waters of peace. Your soul will be restored. And all of this happens not through external action, but through internal assumption. Now, I want to take you deeper into the mechanics of this law so that you can understand exactly why it works and how to apply it in your own life. The first principle you must understand is this: consciousness is the only reality. You do not live in a physical world that operates independently of you. You live in a world that is the outpicturing of your consciousness. What you see out there is the solidified form of what you have assumed in here, in your own awareness. Let me give you a metaphor that will make this clear. Imagine you are sitting in a movie theater. On the screen, you see images moving, a story unfolding. You see characters interacting, events happening, drama and conflict and resolution. Now, where is the real action taking place? Is it on the screen? No. The screen is simply reflecting what is being projected from the projector. The real action, the real cause of everything you see on the screen, is in the film running through the projector. You are the projector. Your consciousness is the film. The world you see is the screen. If you do not like what is playing on the screen, you do not go up to the screen and try to change the images. That would be foolish. You change the film in the projector. You change your consciousness. And when you change the consciousness, the projection on the screen must change automatically. Most people spend their entire lives trying to rearrange the images on the screen. They try to manipulate circumstances, to control people, to force outcomes. And they are exhausted by this effort because it is futile. You cannot permanently change the screen. You can only temporarily distort it. The moment you stop forcing, the projection reasserts itself. But when you change the film, when you change your consciousness, the screen changes effortlessly and permanently. Money is not a thing. It is a symbol, a crystallization of the consciousness of wealth. When you understand that your awareness is the substance from which all things are made, you stop chasing money and start reshaping your awareness. You see, in your current state of consciousness, you have certain assumptions about money. These assumptions are playing like a film through the projector of your mind. And the world is faithfully projecting back to you exactly what that film contains. If the film contains images of struggle, limitation, never having enough, that is what appears on the screen of your life. If the film contains images of abundance, overflow, more than enough, that is what appears. The world has no choice in the matter. It is a perfect mirror. It cannot show you anything other than what you are projecting through your consciousness. Here is another way to understand it. You have heard of the law of gravity. If you hold a stone in your hand and release it, it falls to the ground. It does not fall because the stone is evil or good. It does not fall because you are worthy or unworthy. It falls because that is the law. Gravity is impersonal and it acts upon all objects equally. The law of consciousness is the same. It is impersonal. It does not judge you. It does not care if you are a good person or a bad person, religious or irreligious, educated or uneducated. It simply responds to your assumptions. If you assume lack, you experience lack. If you assume abundance, you experience abundance. The law does not ask why. It does not question whether you deserve it. It simply mirrors back to you the state you occupy in consciousness. This is both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it means you cannot blame anyone else for your circumstances. You cannot say the economy did this to me. You cannot say my employer did this to me. You cannot say God is punishing me. Your circumstances are the perfect outpicturing of your consciousness. But it is also liberating because it means you have total power to change your circumstances simply by changing your consciousness. I remember a man who came to me years ago. He was a talented artist, but he could barely make a living from his art. He would sell a painting here and there, but never enough to support himself. He was bitter about this. He would say, "The world does not appreciate real art anymore. People only want cheap reproductions. Gallery owners are only interested in what sells, not what is good." He had 1,000 excuses. I said to him, "You are assuming the world does not value your art. And as long as you hold that assumption, the world will continue to prove you right. You are projecting a film that says my art is not valued, and the screen of your life is faithfully showing you that reality. If you want a different reality, you must project a different film." He said, "But it is true. I have tried to sell my art and people do not buy it." I said, "That is the effect of your assumption. It is not the cause. The cause is your consciousness that your art is not valued. Change that consciousness and the effect will change." So he began to assume that his art was highly valued, that people were eager to buy it, that gallery owners sought him out. At first, this felt ridiculous to him. The evidence contradicted his assumption at every turn, but he persisted. Every day he would spend time feeling himself to be a successful artist whose work was in demand. He would imagine gallery showings, sales, recognition. He would feel the satisfaction of it. Within 3 months, something shifted. A gallery owner who had rejected him years earlier contacted him asking if he had any new work. A collector who had bought one small painting from him 5 years ago suddenly wanted to commission a series. An interior designer began featuring his work in high-end homes. Within a year, he had more commissions than he could handle. His prices had tripled. He was making a comfortable living from his art for the first time in his life. What changed? Did he suddenly become more talented? No. Did the art world suddenly develop better taste? No. His consciousness changed. He stopped projecting the film of my art is not valued and started projecting the film of my art is highly sought after, and the screen of his life had no choice but to reflect the new film. This is the power you have. You are both the dreamer and the dream. The world is not happening to you, it is happening as you. When you truly grasp this, when you understand that consciousness is the only reality, you realize that you have never been a victim. You have always been the creator. You have simply been creating unconsciously. Now you can create consciously. This brings me to the second principle. An assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. This is not theory. This is the operational law of creation. Right now you hold assumptions about money. I do not have enough. It is hard to make money. Money does not come easily to me. I have to work hard for every dollar. These assumptions, repeated unconsciously day after day, have crystallized into your financial reality. They have hardened into fact, but here is the good news. If a false assumption can harden into fact, then a true assumption can also harden into fact. And by true, I do not mean factually accurate. I mean assumed to be true. If you assume I am a person, money flows too easily, and you persist in that assumption, if you feel it to be true, not hope it will be true, but feel it as already true, your entire world must conform. Jobs appear, checks arrive, opportunities surface. Not because you attracted them, but because the world is reflecting your new state of consciousness. Scripture tells us, "Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them." This is not future tense faith. This is present tense assumption. When you pray, when you go within to imagine, believe that you receive. Not that you will receive, that you do receive. Now, in this moment, that is the assumption. And that assumption, persisted in, must harden into the fact of reception. But here is where most people stumble. They try to create through thought alone. They think I am wealthy over and over again, but they feel poor. And poverty persists. Why? Because it is not the thought that creates. It is the feeling of the thought. This is the third principle, and perhaps the most important. Feeling is the secret. You can think I am wealthy all day long, but if you feel poor, poverty will continue. The secret is to capture the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not the wish itself, but the fulfilled wish. How do you find this feeling? Ask yourself, how would I feel if this were true right now? Then inhabit that feeling, not as a mental exercise, but as a lived reality. When the woman who received $2,500 said, "Isn't it wonderful?" she was not saying it as a mantra. She was feeling wonderful. She was occupying the emotional state of something marvelous already happening. Let me be very specific about this because I want you to understand exactly what I mean by feeling. I do not mean emotion in the sense of excitement or happiness, though those may be present. I mean the inner knowing, the sense of being, the consciousness of already possessing. It is a quiet confidence, a deep certainty, a restful awareness that it is so. Think of it this way. Imagine you have a dear friend who lives in another city and you have not seen them in many years. You miss them. You wish they were here. That is the feeling of the wish. Now, imagine you receive a call and they tell you they are coming to visit next week. The instant you hang up the phone, what do you feel? Not excitement necessarily, though that may be there. What you feel is certainty. You feel the reality of their coming. You feel it as a done deal. You may start planning what you will do together. You may start preparing your home for their visit. The visit has not happened yet in physical reality, but in your consciousness it is already real. That is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is what you must cultivate regarding money, not the excited anticipation of maybe it will come, but the quiet certainty of it is already here. Not in the physical sense yet, but in the consciousness sense, which is the only sense that matters because consciousness creates reality. Let me tell you about a woman who mastered this. She was in a marriage where money was a constant source of tension. Her husband controlled all the finances, and she felt powerless. She had no money of her own. She had to ask permission for everything. It was humiliating for her. She wanted financial independence, but she had no job, no income, no way to make money of her own. She began to practice this principle. Every evening, she would sit quietly and feel herself to be financially independent. She did not imagine divorcing her husband or getting a job or receiving an inheritance. She simply felt the feeling of having her own money. She would imagine going to a store and buying something without having to ask permission. She would imagine checking her own bank account and seeing a balance that was hers alone. She would feel the dignity of it, the freedom of it, the relief of it. She did this for months. Nothing changed externally during this time. Her husband still controlled the money. She still had to ask for everything. But she persisted in the feeling. Then one day, completely out of the blue, a distant relative she had met only once at a family reunion many years ago passed away and left her a sum of money in the will. Not a fortune, but enough to give her the independence she desired. She opened her own bank account. For the first time in her marriage, she had money that was hers. When she told me this story, she said something profound. She said, "The money did not come because I needed it. The money came because I assumed I had it. I stopped feeling dependent and started feeling independent. And once I embodied that feeling, the universe had to provide a way for my external reality to match my internal state." This is the secret. The feeling comes first. The manifestation comes second, always. But you must truly feel it. You cannot fake this. You cannot pretend. Your subconscious knows the difference between genuine feeling and wishful thinking. When you genuinely feel yourself to be in a state, your entire being shifts. Your thoughts change. Your inner conversations change. Your actions change. Everything aligns with the state you are occupying. Here is how you can practice this right now. Close your eyes for a moment. Think about the financial situation you desire. Do not think about the numbers. Do not think about the how. Just ask yourself, if I already had the financial freedom I desire, how would I feel right now? Would I feel relieved? Would I feel secure? Would I feel generous? Would I feel peaceful? Whatever that feeling is, amplify it. Let it fill your entire being. Breathe into it. Let it become more real than your current circumstances. Now open your eyes and notice something. While you were feeling that feeling, even if only for a few seconds, you were not worried about money. You were not anxious about bills. You were not stressed about debt. You were free. That is the state. That is the consciousness. You must learn to occupy more and more until it becomes your natural state. And when it becomes your natural state, your external circumstances must conform to it. Scripture says, "Out of the heart are the issues of life." The heart is the seat of feeling. Whatever you feel to be true issues forth into your life. Your feelings are the creative force. Your thoughts are the blueprints, but your feelings are the substance. When thought and feeling unite, when you think the thought and feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled, creation is inevitable. This is why I teach that you must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You must feel yourself to be the person who already has what you desire. Let me give you another technique for capturing this feeling. Imagine you are an actor preparing for a role. You have been cast as a wealthy person. How would you prepare? You would not just memorize lines. You would inhabit the character. You would feel what the character feels. You would walk as they walk. You would think as they think. You would make decisions as they make decisions. Now here is the key. You are not pretending to be this character. In the method acting technique, you actually become the character. You find the truth of the character within yourself, and you live from that truth. This is what you must do with the state of wealth. You must become it, not act like it, become it. Feel it so deeply that it is no longer acting. It is simply who you are. I knew an actor who used this very principle to transform his career. He had been auditioning for major roles for years, but always getting passed over. He would book small parts here and there, but never the leading role he desired. Then he realized he was going to auditions, feeling like someone trying to convince them he was good enough. His inner state was one of hoping to be chosen, of trying to prove his worth. So he changed his approach. Before his next major audition, he spent a week living in the state of already having the role. He imagined reading the script as the confirmed lead actor. He felt the excitement of getting the call from his agent. He felt himself on set, working with the director, performing the scenes. He inhabited the state so completely that by the time he walked into the audition, he was not auditioning. He was simply showing them what they would get when they hired him, which in his consciousness they already had. He got the role, and he told me later, the difference was not in my performance. I had auditioned just as well before. The difference was in my state. I was no longer seeking. I was confirming. I was not asking them to give me something. I was showing them what was already true in my consciousness. And they responded to that certainty. This is what you must do with money. Stop seeking it. Stop trying to convince the universe you deserve it. Instead, occupy the state of already having it. Feel yourself to be the person who has the financial freedom you desire, not as a distant hope, as a present reality, and maintain that state regardless of what the outer world shows you. And this brings me to the fourth principle, the hinge between failure and success. You must think from, not of. When you think of money, you are in the state of not having it. You are observing it from a distance, imagining it as separate from you. But when you think from money, when you think as the wealthy person you desire to be, you have entered the state. And once you enter the state externalizes itself. Let me make this distinction very clear. Thinking of is imagining I want $10,000. That implies you do not have it. Thinking from is imagining the satisfaction of your bank account, showing $10,000, the relief, the decisions you make from that place of having. Do you see the difference? One is wishful thinking, the other is assumption. An assumption creates. Scripture tells us, if ye believe not that I am he, ye shall die in your sins. What does this mean? It means if you do not believe, if you do not assume the feeling that you are the person you wish to be, you remain locked in the old state. You die in your sins. And sin is simply missing the mark, failing to hit the target of your desire. You remain in lack because you have not assumed abundance. You remain in poverty because you have not entered the consciousness of wealth. Now, here is something that may shock you. On April 12th, 1953, my wife was awakened by the sound of a great voice of authority speaking within her and saying, "You must stop spending your thoughts, your time, and your money. Everything in life must be an investment. To spend is to waste. To squander, to lay out without return. To invest is to lay out for a purpose from which a profit is expected." Most people spend their consciousness. They think random thoughts, feel random emotions, drift through life unconsciously. Then they wonder why nothing changes. But when you invest your consciousness, When you deliberately assume the feeling of wealth and persist in that assumption, you are planting a seed. That seed must bear fruit. The law is impersonal. It does not care if you are worthy. It cares only about the state you occupy. Every thought, every feeling, every inner conversation is either an investment or an expense. Choose consciously. Invest in the consciousness of wealth, and wealth is the inevitable return. This is what it means to be a good steward of your consciousness. You do not waste it on worry, on fear, on doubt. You invest it in the assumption of the wish fulfilled. You give your attention, your feeling, your awareness to the state you desire to occupy. And that state, invested in persistently, must yield dividends. This brings me to another profound principle. Righteousness is the consciousness of already being. Scripture says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." The kingdom of God is consciousness itself. It is not a place, it is a state. And righteousness is not moral purity. It is the awareness of already possessing what you desire. You cannot seek righteousness as something external. You assume it. You feel yourself to be the person who already has the wealth, the abundance, the security. Once you are righteous, once you are conscious of already being, all the things, money, provision, opportunities, are added. They appear as byproducts of your state, not as the result of your striving. Most people seek the things first and hope that seeking will make them righteous, but it works the other way. Become righteous first, become conscious of already having, then the things are added automatically. This is why Jesus said, "Except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of heaven." The scribes and Pharisees were those who were governed by outer appearances, by the rules and customs of society, by the vain desire to be thought well of by other men. Unless this state of mind is exceeded, your life will be one of limitation, of failure to attain your desires, of missing the mark. True righteousness is always the consciousness of already being that which you want to be. It is not about doing the right things. It is about being in the right state. And what is the right state? The state of the wish fulfilled? One of the greatest pitfalls in attempting to use this law is focusing your attention on things, on a new home, a better job, a bigger bank balance. But righteousness is not the thing itself. It is the consciousness, the feeling of already being the person you want to be, of already having the thing you desire. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, your I am, and his righteousness, the consciousness of already possessing it all. Then all these things shall be added unto you. Now, I want to address a question that is often asked. What should be done between the assumption of the wish fulfilled and its realization? And the answer may surprise you. Nothing. It is a delusion that other than assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you can do anything to aid the realization of your desire. You think that you can do something, you want to do something, but actually you can do nothing. The illusion of free will to do is but ignorance of the law of assumption upon which all action is based. Everything happens automatically. All that befalls you, all that is done by you, happens. Your assumptions, conscious or unconscious, direct all thought and action to their fulfillment. To understand the law of assumption, to be convinced of its truth, means getting rid of all the illusions about free will to act. Free will actually means freedom to select any idea you desire. By assuming the idea already to be a fact, it is converted into reality. Beyond that, free will ends, and everything happens in harmony with the concept assumed. This is a radical teaching. It means you do not need to figure out how your desire will be fulfilled. You do not need to make plans, to strategize, to manipulate circumstances. All you need to do is assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and let the assumption do the work. The assumption will direct all your thoughts and actions automatically. It will arrange circumstances you could never have consciously orchestrated. It will bring people into your life, open doors you did not know existed, create opportunities that seem like coincidences but are actually the inevitable outpicturing of your state of consciousness. The woman who received $2,500 did not know how it would come. She did not know a friend from 25 years ago would suddenly decide to support her. She could not have planned that. She could not have made that happen through action. But her assumption, her feeling of, isn't it wonderful, something marvelous is happening to me now, directed events automatically. The soldier who was discharged did not know how the regulations would be overridden. He did not know what series of events would lead to his freedom, but his assumption directed everything. This is the power of assumption. It is not that you make things happen. It is that things happen in response to your assumption. Your assumption is the cause. Everything else is the effect. And effects are automatic. They flow naturally from the cause. This is why I tell you, do nothing except assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let the assumption do the rest. Trust the law. It is impersonal and it is perfect. It will not fail. Now I want to give you practical ways to apply this law starting tonight. The most powerful time to impress your subconscious mind is the interval between waking and sleeping, the drowsy borderland state. In this state, the conscious mind begins to relax its hold, and the subconscious becomes highly receptive. This is the state in which you want to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Tonight, as you lie in bed, induce a state of physical relaxation. Feel your body heavy, still, almost immobile. Do not try to visualize complex scenes. Instead, capture a simple feeling. Isn't it wonderful? Thank you, Father. It is done. I am abundantly provided for. Feel the satisfaction, the relief, the joy of your financial situation already being resolved. Do not think about how. Only about the feeling of it being so. Let me walk you through this technique step by step so you can do it properly tonight. First, when you lie down in bed, take a few deep breaths. With each exhale, feel your body becoming heavier, more relaxed. Let the tension drain out of your muscles. Feel your arms heavy against the mattress. Feel your legs sinking into the bed. Feel your whole body becoming still and at peace. This physical relaxation is important because it helps quiet the conscious mind. When the body is active, the mind is active. When the body is still, the mind becomes receptive. You are creating the perfect conditions for impression upon the subconscious. Once you are physically relaxed, begin to turn your attention inward. Do not focus on your problems. Do not review your day. Do not think about tomorrow's obligations. Instead, bring to mind the simple statement of your wish fulfilled. I am financially free. My needs are met. I am abundantly provided for. Whatever statement feels right to you, choose it now. Now here is the crucial part. Do not just say these words mechanically. Feel them. What does financial freedom feel like? It feels like relief. It feels like a weight lifted off your shoulders. It feels like you can breathe easily. It feels like peace. It feels like security. Find that feeling in your body. Let it spread through you. Amplify it. As you fall asleep, let this feeling be the last thing in your consciousness. Do not let worry creep back in. Do not let doubt intrude. If other thoughts come, gently return to the feeling. I am abundant. I am provided for. All is well. Loop this feeling gently as you drift off to sleep. Some nights this will be easy. Other nights your mind will resist. It will want to think about problems. It will want to worry. This is normal. Do not fight it. Simply redirect. Like training a puppy, you gently but persistently bring your attention back to the desired state. Over time, this becomes easier. Over time, this becomes natural. Why does this work? because the subconscious is most receptive in this drowsy state. The barrier between conscious and subconscious is thin. What you impress upon your subconscious in this state sinks deep. And what is impressed deeply is expressed outwardly. The subconscious does not reason, it does not argue, it simply accepts what is impressed upon it and proceeds to externalize it. If you impress it with the feeling of wealth, it will externalize wealth. If you impress it with the feeling of lack, it will externalize lack. The choice is yours. What are you impressing upon your subconscious as you fall asleep each night? Worry, fear, anxiety about money? Then that is what you are commanding your subconscious to create more of. But from tonight forward, you will impress it with something different. With abundance, with freedom, with provision, with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And as you do this consistently, night after night, you will notice changes. First in your inner world, your thoughts will begin to shift, your feelings will begin to shift, your inner conversations will begin to shift. Then, inevitably, your outer world will shift to match. Now, let me give you some variations of this technique because different approaches resonate with different people. Some people prefer words. If you are a verbal person, you might simply repeat a statement as you fall asleep. I am wealthy. Money flows to me. I am financially secure. Let the words be a vehicle for the feeling. The words themselves do not create, but they can help you access and maintain the feeling. Other people prefer images. If you are a visual person, you might imagine a scene that implies your wish is fulfilled. Perhaps you imagine checking your bank balance and seeing an abundant number. Perhaps you imagine paying bills with ease and having money left over. Perhaps you imagine shopping without worry, buying what you want without checking the price. Choose a scene that feels natural to you, a scene that would only happen if your wish were already fulfilled. But again, the scene is not the point. The feeling is the point. Whether you use words or images, the goal is the same: to capture and maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled as you fall asleep. Let me tell you about a man who used a very simple variation. He would imagine himself waking up on a Saturday morning with no financial concerns. That was his scene. Just waking up peacefully, stretching, feeling good, knowing that money was not a problem. He would replay this scene every night as he fell asleep. He would feel the peace of it, the freedom of it, the joy of waking up without that knot of anxiety in his stomach. Within 2 months, he received an unexpected promotion at work that doubled his salary. Within 4 months, he had paid off his debts. Within 6 months, he actually experienced the exact scenario he had been imagining. He woke up on a Saturday morning, stretched, felt good, and realized he had no financial concerns. His imagination had become his reality. This is the power of consistent impression upon the subconscious in the drowsy state. You are literally reprogramming your consciousness. You are installing a new operating system, and when the operating system changes, the output changes. During the day, you have countless inner conversations about money. Most are negative. I cannot afford this. Bills are piling up. I am so broke. These conversations are creative. They are assumptions, and they harden into fact. So here is what I want you to do. At the end of each day, revise your inner conversations about money. If you thought I do not have enough, revise it. Replay the moment and imagine thinking I always have more than enough. Feel the truth of the revision. Do not just change words. Change the feeling tone of your inner speech. Let me explain this technique of revision more thoroughly because it is one of the most powerful tools you have. Revision is based on the understanding that your memory of an event is more powerful than the event itself. What you remember is what your subconscious accepts as true, and what your subconscious accepts as true is what it externalizes in your future. Most people replay negative events over and over in their minds. Someone was rude to them, and they replay the conversation, feeling angry each time. They made a mistake, and they replay it. Feeling ashamed each time. They experienced lack, and they replay it, feeling poor each time. Every time you replay a negative memory, you are re-impressing it upon your subconscious. You are strengthening that assumption. You are literally creating more of the same in your future. But revision allows you to change the memory, to rewrite the script, to reprogram the assumption. Here is how it works specifically with money. Let us say today you went to the store and you wanted to buy something, but you could not afford it. You had to put it back. That moment created a feeling of lack in you. You felt poor, you felt limited, you felt embarrassed perhaps. Tonight, as you review your day, do not replay that scene as it happened. Revise it. Imagine yourself in the store again, but this time you buy the item easily. You do not even look at the price. You just take it to the counter and pay for it without concern. Feel how that would feel. Feel the abundance of it. Feel the freedom of it. Replay this revised scene until it feels more real than what actually happened. Now your rational mind will protest. But that is not what happened, it will say. You are lying to yourself. But I tell you, you are not lying. You are creating. You are choosing which version of the event to impress upon your subconscious. The version that happened in the physical world is temporary. The version you impress upon your subconscious is eternal because it will create your future. Let me give you a real example. A woman came to me who had a terrible habit of checking her bank balance obsessively. Multiple times a day she would check it, and each time she would see the low number and feel anxious. She would think, not enough, not enough, not enough. This inner conversation was creating more lack. I taught her revision. I told her, tonight, revise every instance today where you checked your bank balance. Imagine checking it and seeing a different number, a number that makes you feel abundant, a number that makes you feel secure. Replay that scene with the new number. Feel how it feels to see abundance in your account. She did this faithfully every night for a month. She would revise every anxious moment, every check of the balance, every fearful thought. She would replay those moments, but with a feeling of abundance instead of lack. After a month, she told me something remarkable happened. She stopped checking her balance obsessively. The compulsion faded. And more than that, money began to come to her in unexpected ways. A refund she had forgotten about, a bonus at work, a gift from a family member. Her account actually began to reflect the abundance she had been impressing upon her subconscious through revision. Here is another powerful way to use revision. At the end of your day, review every moment where you felt poor. Maybe you saw something you wanted but could not have. Maybe you received a bill that stressed you. Maybe someone mentioned money and you felt inadequate. Whatever moments triggered feelings of lack, revise them. Do not just change the external circumstances. Change your response. Imagine responding with confidence instead of fear. Imagine responding with abundance instead of lack. Imagine responding with peace instead of anxiety. Feel yourself being the person who has financial freedom. Feel yourself responding as that person would respond. Over time, this revision rewrites your habitual assumptions, and since all assumptions harden into fact, the revised assumption becomes your new reality. You see, you are not changing the past. You are changing the assumption from which you interpret the past. And since assumptions create reality, the revised assumption is more real, more true, than what actually happened. I want to give you one more specific revision technique that is very powerful. This one is for revising conversations. Many of our assumptions about money come from conversations we have had. Perhaps someone said you will never amount to anything. Perhaps someone said money does not grow on trees. Perhaps someone said you have to work hard for every penny. These conversations, if accepted and replayed, become assumptions. Tonight, revise those conversations. If someone said you will never amount to anything, replay the conversation but hear them saying you are destined for great success. If someone said money is hard to come by, hear them saying money flows easily to you. Do not just change their words. Feel the truth of the new words. Let the revised conversation create a new assumption in you. A man I knew had a father who constantly told him he was no good with money. Every time he made a purchase, his father would criticize it. Every time he talked about his financial goals, his father would mock them. This created a deep assumption in him. He was no good with money, and sure enough, he struggled financially for years. When I taught him revision, he began to revise every conversation he had ever had with his father about money. He would replay them but hear his father saying encouraging things. You are wise with money. You make good decisions. You are prosperous. He did this for months, revising not just recent conversations but old memories from childhood. Gradually, something shifted. His relationship with money changed. He began to make better financial decisions. Opportunities opened up. His income increased. When I asked him what changed, he said, I finally stopped hearing my father's voice in my head telling me I was no good with money. I rewrote that script, and once the script changed, my reality changed. This is the power of revision. You can rewrite your entire financial story. You can revise every moment of lack into a moment of abundance. You can revise every fearful conversation into an encouraging one. You can revise every experience of limitation into an experience of freedom. And as you do this consistently, your subconscious accepts the revision as truth. And what the subconscious accepts as truth becomes your lived experience. Do not underestimate this practice. Spend time each evening reviewing your day and revising any moment that reinforced lack. Transform it into a moment that reinforces abundance. Do this faithfully, and you will be amazed at how quickly your external reality begins to shift. This may sound strange, but it is the mechanics of consciousness. Another practice I want you to begin is entering the state of gratitude. Gratitude is not something you practice after you receive. Gratitude is the state you occupy to magnetize what you desire. Right now, imagine your bank account showing the amount you desire. Feel grateful, not hopeful, not wishful, grateful as though it has already happened. Say inwardly, Thank you, Father. It is done. I am abundantly provided for. Rest in this gratitude daily, especially in moments of financial worry. Why does this work? Because gratitude assumes possession. You cannot be grateful for something you believe you do not have. Gratitude is the consciousness of wealth. When you are truly grateful, you are acknowledging that you have received. And that acknowledgement is an assumption that hardens into fact. Let me explain this more deeply because gratitude is often misunderstood. Most people try to be grateful for what they have as a way of earning more. They think, if I am grateful for this little bit, God will give me more. But that is not how it works. That kind of gratitude still comes from a consciousness of lack. It is saying, I am grateful for this small amount because I do not have the large amount I want. True gratitude is different. True gratitude is feeling thankful for what you desire as though you already have it. Not in the future, not as a possibility, but as a present reality. This is what I mean when I say occupy the state of gratitude. Here is a specific way to practice this. Every morning when you wake up, before you get out of bed, spend a few minutes in gratitude for your fulfilled wish. If you desire financial freedom, feel grateful for already being financially free. Thank you, Father, for my abundant income. Thank you for the overflow in my bank account. Thank you for the ease with which money comes to me. Thank you for the freedom to live without financial worry. But do not just say the words. Feel the gratitude. Let it fill your chest. Let it warm your heart. Let it bring a smile to your face. This is not fake it until you make it. This is genuinely accessing the state of gratitude by remembering that in consciousness, your desire is already fulfilled. You are simply acknowledging what is true in the invisible realm, knowing it must soon appear in the visible realm. I knew a woman who was drowning in debt. Credit cards, medical bills, student loans. She could barely make minimum payments. The stress was destroying her health. She came to one of my lectures and heard this teaching on gratitude. She decided to try it even though it seemed absurd to her to be grateful when she was in such financial distress. Every morning she would wake up and say, "Thank you for my freedom from debt. Thank you that all my bills are paid in full. Thank you for the surplus in my account." At first, it felt like lying. But she persisted. She would feel into the gratitude as deeply as she could. What would it feel like to be debt-free? It would feel like relief, like lightness, like being able to breathe. She would access those feelings and offer gratitude for them as though they were already her reality. 3 months later, she received notice that one of her largest debts, a medical bill, had been forgiven due to a program she did not even know existed. 6 months later, her employer implemented a debt relief benefit that helped her pay off her student loans. 1 year later, she was completely debt-free. Every single obligation paid. And she told me, the gratitude practice changed everything. It shifted me from the consciousness of debt to the consciousness of freedom. And once I occupied that consciousness genuinely, the external debts dissolved. This is not magic. This is law. Gratitude is not a manipulation technique to get more. Gratitude is a way of occupying the state of already having. And when you occupy that state persistently, the external world must conform. Here is another way to practice gratitude throughout your day. Every time you spend money, no matter how small the amount, feel grateful. Not grateful that you have money to spend, though that is nice. Grateful for the abundance that this spending represents. When you buy groceries, feel grateful for the overflow. When you pay a bill, feel grateful that you have more than enough to cover it. When you give a gift, feel grateful for your generous nature. Transform every financial transaction from a reminder of limitation into an affirmation of abundance. Most people spend money with anxiety. Is this too much? Can I afford this? Will I have enough left? Every such thought is an investment in the consciousness of lack. But when you spend with gratitude, you are investing in the consciousness of abundance. I remember a man who was constantly worried about money running out. Every time he had to pay for something, he would feel a pang of fear. What if this is too much? What if I do not have enough for later? This fear was creating a perpetual state of not having enough. I taught him to transform his spending into a gratitude practice. Every time he paid for something, instead of feeling fear, he would feel gratitude. Thank you that I have this money to spend. Thank you that more is always coming. Thank you for the abundance that allows me to take care of my needs. He made this a discipline. Every single transaction became an opportunity to practice gratitude. Within weeks, his relationship with money transformed. The anxiety disappeared, and interestingly, his income increased. Not because the gratitude magically made money appear, but because the gratitude shifted his consciousness from lack to abundance. And from the consciousness of abundance, he made different decisions. He took opportunities he would have been too afraid to take before. He presented himself differently in business situations. He stopped operating from desperation and started operating from confidence. And the external results reflected this internal shift. Let me give you one more gratitude practice that is especially powerful. This one is for moments when you are feeling most stressed about money. Maybe a bill comes that you do not know how you will pay. Maybe an unexpected expense arises. Maybe you check your account and the number is lower than you expected. In these moments, the natural reaction is fear, worry, panic. But I want you to do something radical. I want you to stop, take a breath, and enter into gratitude in that very moment. Not gratitude for the problem, gratitude for the solution that already exists. Thank you, Father, that this bill is paid. Thank you that this expense is covered. Thank you that my account is abundant. Feel the gratitude for the answered prayer, for the fulfilled wish, for the resolved situation. This is perhaps the most difficult practice, because you are choosing gratitude in the face of contradiction. You are choosing to feel grateful when the evidence suggests you should feel worried. But this is where the power is. This is where you are truly exercising your creative authority. You are not waiting for circumstances to change so you can feel grateful. You are feeling grateful and commanding circumstances to change. A young woman I knew practiced this with remarkable results. She was a single mother struggling to make ends meet. One month, she simply did not have enough money to pay rent. The due date came and she was short. She had nowhere to turn. In the past, this would have sent her into panic, but she had been practicing these principles. So in that moment, instead of panicking, she entered into gratitude. She sat quietly and said, "Thank you that my rent is paid. Thank you that I have more than enough. Thank you for the abundance in my life." She felt the gratitude as genuinely as she could, imagining how it would feel to have the rent money, to be secure in her home, to have her needs met. She rested in that state. 2 days later, she received an unexpected tax refund she had forgotten she was owed. It was exactly the amount she needed for rent, with a little extra. She told me, "The gratitude in the moment of need was the hardest thing I have ever done, but it was also the most powerful. I was not grateful because I knew the money was coming. I was grateful as an act of faith that my need was already met in consciousness, and that faith created the manifestation." This is the power of gratitude. It is not a polite thank you after you receive. It is a powerful assertion of already having. It is occupying the state of the wish fulfilled. It is consciousness creating reality. Practice it daily. Practice it in moments of ease and in moments of stress. Let gratitude become your natural state, and watch as your financial reality transforms to match that state. Finally, I want you to understand the power of your I am. Your I am is your name of God. It is the creative power within you. Whatever you attach to I am becomes your reality. So replace every I am broke, I am struggling, I am in debt with affirmative declarations. I am prosperous. I am abundantly provided for. I am the consciousness of wealth. But do not say these as rote affirmations. Feel them. Inhabit the state they describe. Repeat them until they feel natural, until they become your unconscious assumption. I am is the creative power. Whatever follows I am is a command to your subconscious to create that reality. When you say I am broke, you are commanding your subconscious to create more experiences of being broke. When you say I am prosperous, you are commanding your subconscious to create experiences of prosperity. Speak with authority. You are speaking as God individualized. Let me explain the profound significance of I am, because this is the very foundation of all creative power. In Scripture, when Moses asked God his name, God replied, "I am that I am," not "I was," not "I will be." I am, present tense, eternal presence. This is your name. This is your nature. You are I am. Everything you attach to I am, you become. If you say I am poor, you become poor. If you say I am rich, you become rich. Not because of some magical property of words, but because I am is consciousness itself. And consciousness, assumed to be something, becomes that thing. I am is the creative power of the universe individualized in you. It is God saying I am through you. When you say I am, God says I am, and whatever God says is. Most people use their I am unconsciously. They say I am tired, I am sick, I am broke, I am unlucky, I am not good enough. And every time they say I am followed by a limitation, they are creating that limitation. They are instructing their subconscious. They are commanding the creative power of the universe to make them tired, sick, broke, unlucky, not good enough. But you can use your I am consciously. You can deliberately attach I am to states you desire. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am successful. I am blessed. I am prosperous. And every time you say these things with feeling, with belief, with the assumption that it is true, you are creating that reality. Here is a practice I want you to begin today. Throughout your day, become aware of what you are attaching to I am. Listen to your inner speech. Listen to your conversations. How many times do you say, I am followed by something negative? I am so tired. I am so stressed. I am so broke. Every time you catch yourself doing this, stop. Revise it immediately. I am energized. I am peaceful. I am abundant. At first, this will feel forced. You will say, I am abundant while looking at bills you cannot pay, and it will feel like a lie. But persist. Remember, you are not lying. You are creating. You are choosing which state to occupy in consciousness. And the state you occupy in consciousness must eventually manifest in your world. I want to tell you about a man who transformed his entire life through this practice. He was in his 50s, had worked the same job for 20 years, and was stuck. He felt like a failure. Every day he would say to himself, I am stuck. I am a failure. I am never going to amount to anything. These I am statements were creating his reality. He was stuck because he said he was stuck. He was failing because he said he was a failure. When he learned this principle, he made a decision. He would no longer attach I am to any negative state. Every time he caught himself saying I am stuck, he would revise it. I am free. I am progressing. I am moving forward. Every time he caught himself saying I am a failure, he would revise it. I am successful. I am accomplishing great things. I am valued. He did this religiously for 6 months. At first, nothing changed externally. He was still in the same job, still in the same circumstances. But he persisted. I am successful. I am valuable. I am progressing. Then opportunities began to appear. A friend asked him to consult on a project. A former colleague reached out about a job opening. A side business he had started years ago and abandoned suddenly gained traction. Within a year, he had left his old job and was earning 3 times as much doing work he loved. He told me the external change happened fast at the end. But the real change happened slowly over those 6 months as I reprogrammed my I am. I stopped being the person who said I am stuck and became the person who said I am free. And once I became that person in consciousness, the external circumstances had to reflect it. Let me give you a specific I am practice for wealth. Every morning, stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eye, and make these declarations. I am wealthy. I am prosperous. I am financially free. I am abundantly provided for. Money flows to me easily and continuously. I am the consciousness of wealth. But do not just say the words. Feel them. Say them with conviction. Say them with authority. You are not asking. You are not hoping. You are declaring. You are calling into being. You are speaking as God. At first, this may feel awkward or embarrassing. You may feel foolish. But I promise you, if you persist in this practice, something will shift within you. These declarations will begin to feel true. They will begin to feel natural. And when they feel natural, they have become your state. And when they have become your state, manifestation is inevitable. Here is another powerful way to use I am. Whenever you are about to engage in a financial activity, whether it is going to work, negotiating a salary, making a sale, or even just checking your bank account, first declare your I am. I am prosperous. I am successful. I am valued. Let that declaration set the tone. Let it establish the state from which you engage in the activity. A saleswoman I knew used this practice with remarkable results. Before every sales call, she would say to herself, I am successful. I am valued. I am prosperous. Not I hope to be successful. Not I want to be valued. I am. Present tense. Done. She would feel it to be true. She would occupy that state, and then she would make the call from that state. Her sales numbers skyrocketed. Not because she suddenly became better at selling, not because the products changed, but because she was no longer coming from a state of hoping for the sale. She was coming from a state of being successful, and people responded to that. They felt her confidence, they sensed her value, and they bought. Let me tell you about one more I am practice that is especially powerful. This one is for reprogramming deep-seated beliefs about money that you may have absorbed in childhood. Many of our limiting I am statements about money came from our parents, our culture, our early experiences. Perhaps you heard your parents say, we cannot afford that. Perhaps you grew up in an environment where money was always a source of stress. Perhaps you absorbed the belief that I am not good with money, or I am not the kind of person who has wealth. These beliefs have become unconscious I am assumptions. They run in the background of your consciousness, creating your financial reality without you even realizing it. But you can reprogram them. Here is how. Set aside time each day, perhaps in the morning or before bed, to make conscious I am declarations that contradict your old beliefs. If you grew up believing I am not good with money, declare the opposite. I am excellent with money. I am wise with money. Money is easy for me. If you grew up believing I am not the kind of person who has wealth, declare I am wealthy, I am prosperous, I am born to abundance. Say these declarations repeatedly. Say them with feeling. Say them until they begin to replace the old programming. A woman I knew did this practice for 90 days. Every morning and every evening she would spend 10 minutes making I am declarations. I am prosperous. I am financially free. I am worthy of abundance. I am good with money. I am wise with investments. I am a magnet for wealth. At first, she said, it felt like I was arguing with a recording that had been playing in my head my whole life. The old beliefs would push back, but I kept declaring the new beliefs, and gradually the old recording faded. The new one took its place. By the end of 90 days, she noticed that her thoughts about money had completely changed. Where she used to see lack, she now saw opportunity. Where she used to feel fear, she now felt confidence. Where she used to assume limitation, she now assumed abundance. And as her assumptions changed, her reality changed. New opportunities came, her income increased, her relationship with money transformed. This is the power of conscious I am declarations. You are not trying to convince yourself of something that is not true. You are choosing which truth to accept. In consciousness, all states exist. The state of poverty and the state of wealth both exist as possibilities. By declaring I am wealthy, you are selecting that state. You are claiming it. You are occupying it. And what you occupy in consciousness, you must experience in reality. So I urge you, pay attention to your I am. Make it a practice to attach I am only to states you desire. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am loved. I am blessed. I am prosperous. I am free. I am abundant. I am successful. I am valued. I am provided for. Say these things. Feel these things. Become these things. because whatever you attach to I am, you are. Now let me tell you something that may sound bold but is absolutely true. You are not separate from the wealth you seek. You are wealth when you assume yourself to be. The world does not contain wealth that you must go out and get. The world is neutral. It is a mirror. It reflects back to you the state of consciousness you occupy. When you occupy the state of poverty, the mirror shows poverty. When you occupy the state of wealth, the mirror shows wealth. The mirror does not create. It reflects. So stop trying to change the reflection. Change what you are reflecting. Change your state. Enter into the consciousness of wealth. Feel it. Live it. Breathe it. Assume it so completely that it becomes more real to you than your current circumstances. And watch as your current circumstances dissolve and reshape themselves to match your assumption. This is not magic. This is law. It is as reliable as the law of gravity. It is as impersonal as mathematics. It works for everyone who applies it. Let me give you another way to understand this. Imagine you are an actor. You have been cast in the role of a wealthy person. How would you feel? How would you walk? How would you speak? What would be your inner dialogue? Would you worry about bills? Would you feel anxious about money? Of course not. You would feel abundant. You would feel secure. You would feel generous. You would think thoughts that a wealthy person thinks. You would feel feelings that a wealthy person feels. Now here is the secret. You are not pretending to be that person. You are assuming you are that person. And the difference is crucial. When you pretend, you know it is not real. When you assume, you accept it as real. Your subconscious cannot tell the difference between an assumption and a fact. If you assume something persistently, it becomes a fact to your subconscious. And your subconscious externalizes what it accepts as fact. So, assume you are the person you desire to be. Not in some distant future, but now. Not when the money arrives, but before it arrives. The assumption comes first. The manifestation comes second. Most people have it backwards. They think the manifestation must come first. Then they will assume they are wealthy. But the law does not work that way. You must assume first. The manifestation follows. This is what I mean by living in the end. You do not live in the process. You do not live in the struggle. You do not live in the waiting. You live in the end, in the fulfilled state, in the consciousness of already being what you desire to be. And from that state, all action flows naturally. From that state, the right opportunities appear. From that state, money comes in ways you could never have predicted. Let me explain this principle of living in the end more thoroughly, because it is the very essence of conscious creation. Most people live in the middle. They live in the trying, in the working toward, in the hoping for. They say, I'm trying to get wealthy. I am working toward financial freedom. I am hoping to be successful. And every one of these statements places them in the consciousness of not yet having. But the law does not respond to trying or working toward or hoping. The law responds to being, to already having in consciousness. When you live in the end, you are not trying to become wealthy. You are wealthy. You are not working toward financial freedom. You are financially free. You are not hoping to be successful. You are successful. This is not pretending. This is occupying the state. Let me give you a concrete example of what living in the end looks like practically. Imagine you desire to have $10,000 in your bank account. Most people would imagine checking their account and seeing $10,000. They would imagine the moment of receiving the money. They would imagine opening the statement and seeing the number. But this is imaging the bridge. This is living in the middle. Living in the end is different. Living in the end means imagining from the place of already having $10,000. What would you be doing if you already had it? Perhaps you would be planning a vacation you could not afford before. Perhaps you would be shopping without worry. Perhaps you would be paying bills with ease and having money left over. Perhaps you would be investing some of it. These are the actions and thoughts you would have from the end, from the place of already having. So instead of imagining receiving the money, imagine what you would do with the money. Feel yourself on that vacation. Feel yourself shopping without checking prices. Feel yourself paying bills with ease. Feel yourself making wise investments. These feelings and imaginings place you in the end in the state of already having, and it is the state that creates, not the imagining of how you will get to the state. I knew a woman who wanted to move out of her cramped apartment into a beautiful house. For months she would imagine looking at houses, getting approved for a mortgage, packing up her things. She was imagining the middle, the process, and nothing was happening. She remained in the cramped apartment. Then I taught her to live in the end. Stop imagining the process of moving, I said. Imagine being moved. Imagine waking up in your new house. Imagine cooking in your new kitchen. Imagine relaxing in your new living room. Imagine inviting friends over to your new space. Live in the end. Occupy the state of already living in the beautiful house. She shifted her practice. Every night she would imagine herself in her new house, not looking for it, not moving into it, but already there, already settled, already home. She would feel the space around her. She would feel the comfort of it. She would feel the joy of having exactly what she wanted. She lived in the end. Within 2 months, a friend mentioned that a house in a neighborhood she loved was about to go on the market. The owner wanted to sell privately to avoid real estate fees. The price was lower than market value. Everything fell into place easily. Within 4 months, she was living in her beautiful new house. The very house she had been imagining. She had lived in the end in consciousness, and the end materialized in her world. This is the power of living in the end. When you occupy the state of already having, you are not sending out the vibration of wanting or needing or seeking. You are sending out the vibration of having. And the universe responds to the vibration of having by giving you more reasons to feel that you have. Here is another aspect of living in the end that is crucial. When you live in the end, you make decisions from that state. You do not make decisions from your current circumstances. You make decisions from your desired circumstances. Let me explain what this means practically. If you are currently in debt but you desire to be wealthy, you do not make decisions as someone in debt. You make decisions as someone who is wealthy. Now, this does not mean you go out and spend money you do not have. That is foolishness. What it means is you make decisions with the confidence and wisdom of a wealthy person. A wealthy person does not waste time on opportunities that do not serve them. A wealthy person values their time. A wealthy person makes choices that honor their worth. A wealthy person does not accept less than they deserve. When you start making decisions from this place, you are living in the end. You are being the person you desire to be. I remember a man who was barely making ends meet but wanted to be wealthy. He had a job he hated, but he felt trapped because he needed the income. When I taught him to live in the end, I said, start making decisions as a wealthy person would. A wealthy person would not stay in a job they hate. A wealthy person would value their happiness and fulfillment over security. This terrified him at first. But I am not wealthy yet, he said. I cannot afford to quit. And I said, in consciousness you are wealthy. Make the decision from that consciousness. Trust that when you occupy the state of wealth, the means to support that state will appear. So he quit his job. It was terrifying for him, but he maintained the assumption of being a wealthy person who was simply between opportunities. He did not panic. He did not scramble for any job he could find. He waited for the right opportunity because that is what a wealthy person would do. Within 3 weeks, he was offered a position at a company he had always wanted to work for. The salary was double what he had been making. The work was fulfilling, everything aligned, and he told me, I would never have been offered that position if I had still been stuck in my old job. I had to make space for the new by living in the end, by making decisions as the person I wanted to be rather than the person I was. This is what living in the end requires. It requires faith. It requires courage. It requires trusting that when you occupy a state in consciousness, the outer world must provide evidence of that state. You cannot live in the end with one foot in the end and one foot in your current circumstances. You must fully commit to the state. You must be all in. Now, I want to address a question that often comes up. People say, if I live in the end, if I assume I already have what I want, will I become complacent? Will I stop taking action? Will I just sit around waiting for money to fall from the sky? This misunderstands what living in the end means. Living in the end does not mean being passive. It means being inspired. When you truly occupy the state of already having, you are not motivated by desperation or fear. You are inspired by joy and creativity. You act, but you act from fullness, not from emptiness. You move, but you move from inspiration, not from desperation. The action that comes from the state of already having is different from the action that comes from the state of not having. Action from not having is forced, effortful, exhausting. It is trying to make something happen. Action from already having is natural, joyful, energizing. It is allowing something to happen through you. I have seen this play out countless times. People who are desperately trying to make money work themselves to exhaustion and get minimal results. People who are living in the consciousness of already being wealthy take inspired action and opportunities flow to them effortlessly. The difference is not in the amount of action, but in the state from which the action arises. Let me give you one final teaching about living in the end. This one is perhaps the most subtle but also the most powerful. When you truly live in the end, you stop asking when, you stop wondering how, you stop checking for evidence, you simply are. Think about something you already have in your life. Maybe it is your name, maybe it is your family, maybe it is your home. Do you wake up every morning wondering when you will have your name? Do you constantly check to see if you still have your family? Do you question whether your home is real? Of course not. You simply are that person with that name. You simply have that family. You simply live in that home. It is so natural to you that you do not think about it. This is what living in the end feels like when you truly occupy the state. Your financial abundance becomes as natural to you as your name. You do not wonder when it will come. You do not question if it is real. You simply know you are abundant in the same way you know you are you. It is your identity. It is your state. It is who you are. And when you reach this level of naturalness with your assumption, manifestation is instantaneous. Because there is no longer any wavering, any doubt, any checking. You simply are what you have assumed yourself to be. And the world has no choice but to reflect this back to you. This is mastery. This is living in the end completely. This is what I want for you. Not just to practice these techniques as methods, but to embody this consciousness so completely that it becomes who you are. You are not someone trying to become wealthy. You are wealth embodied. You are not someone hoping for abundance. You are abundance itself. You are not someone seeking financial freedom. You are freedom expressing as finances. When you reach this understanding, when you truly live in the end, creation is effortless. Life flows. Opportunities appear. Money comes. Not because you are doing something right, but because you are being someone real. You have assumed your true identity. You have occupied your natural state. You have come home to yourself. And from this place, all things are possible. From this place, there is no limit to what you can create. From this place, you are finally awake to who you truly are. God in human form, I am. Consciousness. the creator of worlds. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but I have tried this and it did not work. Let me tell you why. You tried it for a day, maybe a week, maybe even a month, but then you gave up because you did not see immediate results. You returned to your old assumptions, your old feelings, your old state, and the old state reasserted itself in your world. The key is persistence. You must persist in the assumption of the wish fulfilled until it becomes natural to you, until it becomes your dominant state. How long does this take? It depends. For some it happens quickly. For others it takes longer. But I can tell you this with certainty. If you persist, if you do not waver, if you maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled regardless of outer appearances, it must manifest. The law is impersonal. It does not play favorites. It works for everyone who applies it correctly. And what does it mean to apply it correctly? It means maintaining the assumption not just when you feel like it, not just when things are going well, but especially when circumstances seem to contradict your desire. This is the test. When the bills pile up, when the bank account dwindles, when the job does not come through, can you still assume you are wealthy? Can you still feel the feeling of abundance? Can you still rest in the consciousness of already having? Let me tell you about a woman who exemplified persistence. She wanted to start her own business but had no capital. Every bank turned down her loan application. Every investor she pitched said no. For 2 years, she heard nothing but rejection. 2 years of doors closing in her face. Most people would have given up. Most people would have said it is not meant to be. But she did not. Every night she would fall asleep, imagining her business was already successful. She would see herself in her office. She would feel the satisfaction of serving clients. She would imagine her bank account reflecting a profitable business. She did not imagine trying to get funding. She did not imagine pitching investors. She imagined from the end, from the place of already having the successful business. For 2 years, she did this. 2 years of maintaining the assumption in the face of constant external contradiction. Then one day, at a coffee shop, she struck up a conversation with a stranger. That stranger turned out to be an investor looking for exactly the kind of business she wanted to create. Within 3 months, she had full funding. Within a year, her business was profitable. Within 3 years, it was thriving beyond her wildest dreams. When I asked her about those 2 years of rejection, she said something profound. She said, "Every rejection was testing my assumption. Was I assuming from the outside or from the inside? If I was assuming from the outside, the rejections would have changed my assumption. But I was assuming from the inside, from consciousness. And nothing external can change an internal assumption unless you let it. I did not let it. I persisted. And persistence always wins." This is what I need you to understand about persistence. It is not about forcing or striving. It is about remaining in the state. It is about occupying the consciousness of the wish fulfilled no matter what the mirror shows you. The mirror will test you. It will show you the old reflection for a while. It is reflecting the old consciousness. But if you persist in the new consciousness, the mirror must eventually show the new reflection. Think of it like turning a ship. If you are sailing in one direction and you turn the wheel, the ship does not immediately change direction. There is momentum. The ship continues in the old direction for a moment, even though the wheel is turned. But if you keep the wheel turned, if you persist in the new direction, eventually the momentum shifts and the ship turns. Your life is the same. You change your consciousness, and for a while your life continues in the old direction because of momentum. But if you persist in the new consciousness, the momentum shifts and your life turns. Here is another way to understand persistence. Imagine you plant a seed in the ground. You water it, you care for it, but you do not see anything happening. The ground looks the same. Days pass, weeks pass. Still nothing visible. Now you have a choice. You can dig up the seed to see if it is growing. But if you do this, you kill the seed, or you can trust the process. You can persist in watering and caring for the seed even though you see no evidence of growth. And if you do this, one day a sprout appears, then a plant, then fruit. Your assumption is the seed. Your persistence in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the watering, and the manifestation is the fruit. But you must not dig up the seed. You must not check constantly to see if it is working. You must not let the lack of immediate results discourage you. You must persist in the consciousness of the seed already growing, already becoming the plant, already bearing fruit, and in time it will. I want to tell you about a man who almost gave up but did not. He had been practicing assumption for his financial freedom for 4 months. He had been diligent. Every night he fell asleep in the feeling of abundance. Every day he revised his negative thoughts. Every moment he could, he occupied the state of wealth. But after 4 months, nothing had changed externally. He was still in the same financial situation, still struggling, still barely making ends meet. He came to me discouraged. He said, "I have done everything you taught. I have assumed. I have felt. I have persisted, but nothing is happening. I am starting to think this does not work." And I said to him, "How long did it take you to create your current financial situation?" He thought about it and said, "Years, decades even. I have been unconsciously assuming poverty for most of my life." And I said, "Then give yourself more than 4 months to reverse it. You are undoing years of unconscious assumption. You are reprogramming your entire consciousness. This takes time. The seed is planted. The seed is growing. But you have not yet seen the sprout. Do not dig it up now. Persist. Trust the process. Keep watering the seed with your assumption." He decided to persist. He gave himself 1 more year. He said, "If nothing changes in a year, then I will reconsider. But for 1 year, I will maintain the assumption no matter what." So he did. He persisted through month 5, month 6, month 7. Still nothing external changed. But he kept assuming, kept feeling, kept occupying the state. Then in month 8, a crack appeared, a small opportunity, not huge, not life-changing, but something. He followed it. In month 9, another opportunity, bigger this time. By month 12, his income had doubled. By month 18, he was completely financially free. Debt paid off, savings growing, living comfortably. He told me, if I had given up in month 4, I would have missed everything. The growth was happening underneath the surface all along. The seed was growing. I just could not see it yet. But it was working. The law was working. I just needed to persist long enough to see the fruit. This is what I want you to take from this. Persistence is not optional. It is essential. You cannot try this law for a week and expect your entire life to transform. You must persist. You must maintain the assumption. You must occupy the state, not for a day, not for a week, but until it manifests, and it will manifest. The law is faithful. The law is certain, but you must be faithful and certain as well. You must persist. This is where most people fail. They are fair weather assumers. They assume when it is easy, when there is some evidence to support their assumption, but they abandon the assumption the moment circumstances challenge it. But I tell you, circumstances are not the test of your assumption. Circumstances are the result of your old assumptions. They are the outpicturing of what you were assuming days, weeks, months ago. So do not let current circumstances dictate your assumption. Let your assumption dictate your future circumstances. Assume in the face of contradiction. Assume when the evidence says no. Assume when the world tells you it is impossible. Because your assumption is senior to all evidence. Your assumption is the creative power. Evidence is the created effect, and the effect must always conform to the cause. Let me tell you about a principle that is crucial to understand. There is a time lag between assumption and manifestation. You plant a seed today. You do not see the tree tomorrow. But if you continue to water the seed, if you continue to nourish it, if you do not dig it up to check if it is growing, it will become a tree. Your assumption is the seed. Your persistence in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the watering, and the manifestation is the tree. But most people plant the seed, water it for a day or two, then dig it up to see if it is growing, and in the digging up they destroy the seed. Do not do this. Plant the seed by assuming the wish fulfilled. Water it by maintaining the feeling, and leave it alone. Trust the law. The seed will grow. The manifestation will come. It is inevitable. Now, some of you may be thinking, this sounds too simple. It cannot be this easy. But I tell you, it is this simple. Not easy, perhaps, because it requires disciplining your mind, controlling your imagination, maintaining a feeling in the face of contradiction. But it is simple. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption, that is all. The complexity comes from the mind that wants to figure out how, that wants to see the path, that wants to know the process. But the how is not your concern. The how is the concern of the law. Your concern is the assumption. Your concern is the state. Your concern is the feeling. Everything else takes care of itself. I want to share with you now something that will help you maintain the assumption. It is the understanding that you are not creating something new. You are selecting from infinite possibilities that already exist. In consciousness, all states exist now. The state of poverty exists. The state of wealth exists. The state of sickness exists. The state of health exists. All states exist simultaneously in the one consciousness, which is God, which is I am, which is you. Your job is not to create the state of wealth. It already exists. Your job is to select it, to enter into it, to occupy it. How do you do this? By assuming you are already in that state, by feeling the feeling of that state, by thinking from that state. When you do this, you are not creating, you are selecting, and what you select becomes your experienced reality. This is why I say there is no one that is not all that is. You are not separate from anything. You contain all states within your own consciousness. The state of wealth is not somewhere out there that you must go and get. It is within you, waiting to be selected, waiting to be occupied. All you must do is turn your attention to it, assume it, feel it, and persist in it. And it must externalize. Think of it like this. You are standing in a room with many doors. Behind each door is a different reality, a different state. Behind one door is the reality of poverty. Behind another door is the reality of wealth. You have been standing in front of the poverty door, assuming that is your reality. And so that is what you experience. But all you have to do is turn around, walk to the wealth door, open it, and step through. How do you step through? By assumption. By feeling yourself to already be in that room, in that state, in that reality. The door is not locked. You do not need permission to open it. You do not need to earn the right to step through. You simply choose. You select. You assume. And the moment you truly assume, you have stepped through. The outer world may not immediately reflect this. Remember, there is a time lag. But if you persist in the assumption, if you remain in the room of wealth in your consciousness, the outer world must eventually catch up. It must reflect the state you occupy. Now, I want to address something important. Some of you have been taught that you must let go of your desire, that you must detach from the outcome, that you must release it to the universe. This is a misunderstanding. You do not let go of your desire. You let go of your concern about how it will come and when it will come. But you do not let go of the state. You do not let go of the assumption. You do not let go of the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Letting go of the desire is like planting a seed and then deciding you do not want the tree anymore. That makes no sense. You want the tree. That is why you planted the seed. What you let go of is the anxiety about whether the seed will grow. You let go of the need to see it growing. You let go of the impatience. But you do not let go of the desire for the tree. You maintain the vision. You maintain the assumption that the tree is growing. You maintain the feeling of already enjoying the shade of the tree. This is the difference between letting go and giving up. Letting go is releasing the attachment to the process while maintaining the assumption of the end. Giving up is abandoning the assumption altogether. Never give up the assumption, but always let go of the anxiety, the impatience, the need to control how and when. I want to give you another powerful principle. Your assumption must be greater than your observation. Most people let their observation, what they see in the outer world, determine their assumption. They see lack, so they assume lack. They see bills, so they assume debt. They see an empty bank account, so they assume poverty. But this is backwards. Your assumption must determine your observation. If you see lack but assume wealth, eventually what you see will change to match what you assume. If you see debt but assume abundance, eventually the debt will dissolve and abundance will appear. But you must be willing to assume in contradiction to what you observe. You must be willing to call that which is not seen as though it were. This is faith, not hoping for what you cannot see, but assuming what you cannot see is already true. Scripture says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Your assumption is your faith, and that faith is the substance, the actual substance, from which the thing hoped for will materialize. Your assumption is the evidence, the only evidence you need, that what you desire already exists. You do not wait for outer evidence. Your assumption is the evidence, and that evidence, maintained, becomes the manifestation. Now let me tell you what happens when you truly assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Your actions change, not because you force them to change, but because they automatically align with your assumption. If you assume you are wealthy, you will naturally make decisions a wealthy person would make. You will naturally carry yourself the way a wealthy person carries themselves. You will naturally think thoughts and speak words that are in harmony with wealth. This is not something you have to try to do. It happens automatically when the assumption is genuine. This is how you know your assumption is real. Not by seeing outer results immediately, but by noticing that your inner world has changed. Your thoughts are different, your feelings are different, your inner conversations are different. When this happens, you know the assumption has taken root, and manifestation is inevitable. But if you assume you are wealthy, and yet your thoughts are still thoughts of poverty, your feelings are still feelings of lack, your inner conversations are still conversations of debt, then you have not truly assumed. You have merely thought about assuming. There is a difference. True assumption changes you from the inside out. It is not a mental exercise. It is a shift in your very being. This is why I emphasize feeling so much. Feeling is the evidence that you have truly assumed. When you feel wealthy, when the feeling is as real to you as any physical sensation, you have assumed. When you can rest in that feeling, when you can maintain it regardless of outer circumstances, you have mastered the law. And mastery of the law means mastery of your life. Let me share with you one more profound truth. You are never a victim of circumstances. You are always the creator of circumstances. There is no outer power that can impose anything upon you without your consent. And your consent is given through your assumption. If you assume you are a victim, you will experience victimhood. If you assume you are powerful, you will experience power. If you assume you are wealthy, you will experience wealth. This may be hard to accept, especially if you have experienced hardship, poverty, or lack. You may want to say, "But I did not choose this. I did not want this." But I tell you, at some level, you assumed it. Perhaps not consciously, perhaps not deliberately, but your dominant state of consciousness created your experience. And if your dominant state created your current experience, then changing your dominant state will create a new experience. This is both sobering and liberating. Sobering because it means you cannot blame anyone or anything for your circumstances. Liberating because it means you have the power to change your circumstances simply by changing your state of consciousness. You are not at the mercy of the economy, the government, your employer, your family, or any external force. You are at the mercy of only one thing, your own assumptions, and here is the beauty of it. You can change your assumptions at any moment. You do not need permission. You do not need resources. You do not need anything outside of yourself. You simply decide, "I will assume differently. I will occupy a different state. I will feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled." And in that decision, in that assumption, you have changed your destiny. Now, as we come toward the close of this teaching, I want to recap the transformation that has taken place tonight, or at least the transformation that can take place if you truly hear what I have said. You began believing money was external, something to be earned, chased, acquired through hard work and good fortune. You now understand money is the reflection of your consciousness. Change the consciousness and the reflection changes automatically. You learn that assumption hardens into fact, that whatever you persistently assume to be true will become true in your experience. You learn that feeling is the secret, that it is not the thought but the feeling of the thought that creates, that you must capture the feeling of the wish fulfilled and maintain it. You learn that you must think from, not of. That thinking of your desire keeps you in the state of lack, while thinking from your desire places you in the state of fulfillment. And it is the state that creates, not the thought about the state. You learn that you must stop spending your consciousness and start investing it. That every thought, every feeling, every inner conversation is either an expense or an investment. And that investing in the assumption of wealth yields the return of wealth. You learn that righteousness is the consciousness of already being, that you do not seek the things first and hope that will make you righteous. You become righteous first, you become conscious of already having, and then the things are added automatically. You were given 4 practices to begin tonight. The drowsy state technique, where you fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Revision, where you rewrite your inner conversations about money. Entering the state of gratitude, where you feel grateful for what you desire as though you have already received it. And I am declarations, where you attach only prosperous states to your I am. But more than practices, you received an understanding that consciousness is the only reality, that you are not a victim of circumstances but the creator of circumstances, that the world is a mirror reflecting back to you the state you occupy, that all states exist now in consciousness and your job is simply to select the state you desire and persist in it. This is not just about money. This is about understanding who you truly are. You are not a limited human being struggling to survive in a harsh world. You are God individualized. You are I am. You are consciousness itself, appearing as an individual. And as consciousness, you have the power to assume any state, to feel any feeling, to create any experience. Money is just one manifestation of this power. But once you understand how to consciously create money, you can consciously create anything: health, relationships, opportunities, success. It all operates by the same law. Assume the state, feel the feeling, persist in the assumption, and watch as it hardens into fact. Now I want to speak directly to your heart. You are not broken. You have not failed. You have simply been operating under false assumptions. Those assumptions are not permanent. They are not you. They are simply states you have occupied unconsciously. And just as you occupied them unconsciously, you can now consciously choose to occupy different states. Listen to me carefully. Your past does not determine your future unless you let it. The fact that you have struggled with money until now does not mean you must continue to struggle. The fact that you have lived in lack does not mean lack is your destiny. You are not a victim of your history. You are the creator of your future. And you create your future by the state you occupy right now in this present moment. I do not care if you have been in debt for 20 years. I do not care if you have never known financial security. I do not care if everyone in your family has been poor. None of that matters. What matters is what you assume now. What matters is what state you occupy now. What matters is what you feel now. The past is dead. Only this moment is alive. And in this moment, you can choose a new assumption. You can enter a new state. You can become a new person in consciousness. And when you become a new person in consciousness, your entire world must rearrange itself to accommodate this new person. This is not theory. This is not wishful thinking. This is the law of consciousness. It is as certain as any law of physics. Change your consciousness and your world must change. There are no exceptions. Tonight, you make a new choice. You choose the consciousness of wealth. You choose the feeling of abundance. You choose the state of the wish fulfilled. And you persist in that choice not just tonight, not just tomorrow, but until it becomes natural, until it becomes your dominant state, until it hardens into undeniable fact in your outer world. I know some of you are afraid to hope, afraid to believe, afraid that if you assume and it does not manifest, you will be disappointed. Let me address this fear directly. First, understand that you are already assuming. Every moment of every day you are assuming something about yourself and your life. The question is not whether to assume. The question is what to assume. Right now you are probably assuming lack. You are probably assuming struggle. You are probably assuming limitation. And that assumption is creating your current reality. So what do you have to lose by assuming differently? If you assume wealth and it does not manifest immediately, you have still spent your time in a pleasant state rather than an unpleasant one. You have still experienced abundance in your consciousness, even if not yet in your bank account. And is that not better than spending your time in fear, in worry, in lack? But I tell you with absolute certainty, if you persist, if you maintain the assumption, if you do not waver, you will see results. The law is impersonal. It does not fail. It cannot fail. It is as certain as gravity. The only way this law fails is if you fail to apply it. If you assume for a moment and then doubt the rest of the time, if you feel abundant for 5 minutes and then feel poor for 23 hours and 55 minutes, if you occupy the state of wealth when it is convenient and return to the state of poverty when it is not, that is not application of the law. That is playing with the law. And you cannot play with universal laws and expect them to work for you. But if you truly apply this law, if you genuinely assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, if you persist in that assumption regardless of circumstances, if you make it your dominant state, then manifestation is not a possibility. It is a certainty. It is guaranteed. It is inevitable. So let me ask you, are you ready? Are you ready to stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the creator of your circumstances? Are you ready to stop blaming the economy, your employer, your past, or anything external for your financial situation. Are you ready to take full responsibility for your consciousness, knowing that your consciousness creates your reality? If you are ready, then tonight is your new beginning. Not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. As you go to sleep tonight, you will assume for the last time that you are in lack. From this moment forward, you assume abundance, you assume wealth, you assume provision. You feel it, you live it, you breathe it, you become it. And I promise you, as surely as the sun will rise tomorrow, your external world will begin to change. Maybe not overnight, maybe not in the time frame you would prefer, but it will change. It must change. Because consciousness is cause and circumstances are effect. Change the cause and the effect must follow. This is not hope. This is not faith in the religious sense. This is understanding the mechanics of reality and using them consciously. I want to leave you with a final thought. You have within you right now everything you need to create the financial life you desire. You do not need more education. You do not need more connections. You do not need more opportunities. You need only to understand and apply the law of consciousness. You need only to assume the state of wealth and persist in that assumption. Everything else, all the education, all the connections, all the opportunities, will appear as a result of your assumption. The universe will orchestrate events, will arrange circumstances, will bring people and situations into your life that match your state of consciousness. Your job is not to figure out how. Your job is to maintain the state. The how will take care of itself. So stop worrying about the how. Stop trying to figure out the path. Stop looking for the way. The way will appear when you occupy the state. The path will unfold when you maintain the assumption. The how will reveal itself when you persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Your only job is to be wealthy in consciousness, to be abundant in feeling, to be prosperous in assumption. Be this now, not when you see the money, not when the circumstances change. Now, this moment, in the invisible realm of consciousness where all creation begins. And as you are this in consciousness, consistently and persistently, the visible realm must conform. The outer must match the inner. The reflection must mirror what is being reflected. This is law. This is how creation works. This is the secret that has been hidden in plain sight in scripture, in mystical teachings, in the nature of reality itself. You are God in human form. You are I am. You are consciousness. You are the creator, not of some distant reality, but of this reality, your reality. The life you are living right now is your creation. It is the outpicturing of your consciousness. And if you do not like what you have created, you have the power to create something different. You have always had this power. You simply did not know it. Or if you knew it, you did not believe it. Or if you believed it, you did not apply it. But now you know, now you believe, now you will apply, and your life will never be the same. So tonight I invite you to begin. Not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. As you lie in bed, assume you are already the person you desire to be. Feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Fall asleep in that feeling. And tomorrow, maintain it. When thoughts of lack arise, replace them with thoughts of abundance. When feelings of poverty arise, replace them with feelings of wealth. When inner conversations of debt arise, revise them into conversations of prosperity. Do this consistently. Do this persistently. Do this with faith in the law, and watch as your world transforms. Watch as money begins to flow to you in ways you never expected. Watch as opportunities appear that you could not have consciously created. Watch as the mirror of your world reflects back to you the new state you have chosen to occupy. This is the secret that mystics have known for thousands of years. This is the truth that has been hidden in plain sight in Scripture. This is the law that governs all creation. And now you know it. Now you have it. Now you can use it. I want to close with a mantra, an affirmation, a declaration of truth. Speak this with me now, either out loud or in the silence of your heart. Feel the truth of these words. Let them sink into your consciousness. Let them become your new assumption. I am the consciousness of wealth. I do not seek abundance. I am abundance. My awareness is God, and God lacks nothing. The world is my mirror reflecting back to me the state I occupy. Tonight I occupy the state of wealth fulfilled. I rest in this knowing. I persist in this feeling. I maintain this assumption, and so it is. It is done. Thank you, Father. I am abundantly provided for now and forever. Now, if this teaching has resonated with you, if you have felt the truth of it in your bones, I ask you to honor that resonance. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it, someone who is struggling financially, someone who has been seeking and not finding, someone who is ready to understand the true mechanics of creation. Leave a comment below declaring your new assumption. Write the words, I am wealth, I am abundance, I am prosperous. Let your declaration be your first act of assuming the new state. And join this community of those who understand that imagination creates reality. Subscribe to stay connected to these teachings. Like this video if it has served you. Because the more people who understand this law, the more people who occupy states of abundance, the more the collective consciousness shifts. And as the collective consciousness shifts, the world itself transforms. But do not worry about the collective. Focus on yourself. Focus on your own state. Focus on your own assumption. Because when you change, when you truly occupy the state of wealth, you will be a light to others. You will be living proof that the law works, and your life will inspire others to apply the law in their own lives. This is not the end. This is your beginning. Now go and live from the state of your fulfilled desire. Assume you are already the person you wish to be. Feel the feeling of already having what you desire. Persist in that assumption no matter what the outer world shows you, and watch as the law, faithful and impersonal, transforms your assumption into manifestation. You are God in human form. You are the creator of your reality. You are I am. Use this power wisely. Use it consciously. Use it to create a life of abundance, of joy, of fulfillment. The power is within you. It has always been within you. You are simply remembering it now. Go in peace. Go in power. Go in the absolute certainty that you are wealth, you are abundance, you are provided for, all is well. It is finished, it is done, and so it is.